We're in Squadron 42.
We're in Squadron.
Slowly revolving through space.
Yes, we're revolving into space. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of the GGG Podcast. We've got a good show for you today. We've got lots of interesting news. We are 1 week away from Dragon Age Veilguard, probably one of this, holiday season's biggest releases, but we've got a bunch of quirky releases that have come out this week as well that we're going to talk about, as well as VR. We're going to talk a little VR for the main topic today. As always, I'm joined by Phil. Phil, how are you doing this fine week? Have you had time for video games before you go to MagicCon?
Yeah, so as I'm prepping to go to MagicCon, I've definitely tried to take some time between deck crafting to play some games. I had a wild hair to play more Cyberpunk, and I bought Phantom Liberty, and holy smokes, it is a great game. The sort of additions that you get with Phantom Liberty, not just the story, because the story is always Cyberpunk level good.
Sure.
But it, like the extra abilities and things that you could do, extra guns, it all kind of gets ratcheted up. And my goodness, that game looks so good. I think it was actually last week's episode where we were talking about games that relaunched after kind of a failure to launch.
Yes.
Got me being like, you know what? Cyberpunk was really good. I'm excited to go back to that. And then I also have been playing a kind of another Cyberpunk themed game called Off the Grid. Have you seen this one, Paul?
I don't think I have. What is that?
It is a battle royale, executive produced by Neil Blomkamp of District 9 and that movie where Matt Damon had like a robo exosuit.
Elysium, I believe.
Elysium?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact, that was supposed to star Eminem, but he was like, we're going to film it in Detroit. And they're like, no. And he was like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Imagine how good that movie would have been. Anywho, it is a battle royale where you have like robotic arm and leg attachments. Kind of like Cyberpunk, and you go and find weapons, but you also find like things to put on, and you kind of like can fly around. It's really good.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. I've seen it. A lot of streamers are really into it right now. So
yeah,
very cool.
I think it might turn into something big. But that's been it. How about for you, Paul?
Been playing more Space Marine. There was a Space Marine update this week, so we got a new operation mission. Also got a couple new cosmetics, some quality of life stuff. Finally able to turn on like private lobbies, so that's been nice as well. I've been playing that. My girlfriend has been getting back into Red Dead Online. And whenever she's playing, I want to encourage that, and so I've been playing with her, and I've been having a fun time. I've played Red Dead Online on PC and on consoles, and it's just better on consoles. And I'm sorry to say, it's like, obviously it's going to run better on a PC, but the amount of hacking that I've encountered playing on PC
is greatly reduced.
It's literally every single time I played on PC, there would be a hacker in the lobby. On a console, you can hack that too. You totally can, but there's just less people doing it. And so, yeah, I like it. But we are prestigious bounty hunters now, and we're trying to get all of the elite bounty hunting gear. So we're pretty excited about that. But yeah, been playing that.
The bounty hunting on Red Dead Online is probably my favorite thing about Red Dead Online, other than the cool bases you can set up. But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the careers that they added later on, like the Moonshiner. I think is pretty fun. And I like doing the trader as well. Even the collector is fun. It's really just the naturalist is so freaking boring, because you have to tranquilize a bunch of animals and then take samples. And if you had to do that 1 or 2 times, that would be fine. But you have to do it 50 times before you even get to the first. What a waste!
And there's always finding one gray wolf. You always find a brown wolf. You always find. They want you to find specific animals, or they want you to find just things that are very hard to find, and you have to be doing something else and then see it and be like, oh, I gotta tranquilize this animal in the middle of this gunfight.
Yeah. And then I've also been playing Frostpunk still. Still having a good time with it. I am so into Frostpunk right now. I was like, I think I'm gonna watch that show Snowpiercer, and so I started. I am on an AMC Plus free weeks, so I gotta cancel before. So I'm trying to get through the whole series.
So you're powering through right now.
Powering. I'm piercing that snow, man. But it is the exact same as Frostpunk, even all the political stuff. So it's fun to live in that specific version of a steampunk universe. So yeah, but that's pretty much been it. I'm excited to get talking about all these releases that we got. What's the first one up this week, Phil? What are we going to talk about first?
Well, it is a game whose name has not been sullied at all in the past couple years.
Oh, okay.
It is another Batman Arkham game, Batman Arkham Shadow, which is very cool, especially if you have VR. If you don't have VR, it's a little bit of a bummer because you can't play this game. I think it's specifically out for the Oculus, not the Oculus, the Quest, Meta Quest 3.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
And it's kind of releasing to rave reviews, which is, I think we both sort of saw the trailer and we're like, no way, this is good, right? This looks pretty bad. Apparently, it nails the feeling of an Arkham game without making you dizzy, and that's pretty huge.
Right on. I mean, for in a VR game, that's all you can really ask for, and if you can really feel like Batman, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't very impressed with the trailer, but I didn't think it was awful. I just was like, oh, it's a VR game, and so I thought less of it just because of that.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see that it is actually a good game. People are having a good time with it. And, I have a MetaQuest 2, so I don't know if I can run this game on my MetaQuest 2. Do you know if it runs on the Quest 2?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Look it up.
Quest 2, Batman Arkham Shadows. Well, it comes with a Quest 3, so if you just buy a Quest 3, you get it.
I see.
So I feel like you should.
So
I feel like might as well.
This is to push Quest 3s. That's what it is. I see.
You know what? And its supported platforms include the MetaQuest 3S and the MetaQuest 3. So bad news if you have no VR or any other form of VR.
Yeah, for me, the Quest 3, I mean, maybe it's kind of a holiday purchase, but for me, it's still a little bit too expensive. Because how much are they going for? About $500? Yeah, $500 is the starting. From what
well, if you get a 3S, I guess that's the
light.
The light version. That's only $299.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. MetaQuest 3. How much is that one running for? Yeah, $500. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
why is there a $200 difference there? That's really weird. So
yeah, I want to look up everything that goes on in between these two and be like, okay, what is the? Because it's got to be something like the camera on the outside of the regular Quest is just a little bit better than the camera on the outside of the Quest S.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's save all the VR talk for our main topic. Let's keep pushing on through this week's releases. Sonic X Shadow Revelations has released, and hey, for Sonic game, not getting bad reviews. Pretty good.
Yeah.
This is good to see. So especially, I'm sure they really like it with the Sonic 3 movie coming out, which I think that's coming out very soon, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
I just fixed this in the notes because I put it in wrong.
Okay.
But it is Sonic X Shadows Generations.
Generations, not Revelations or Revelations.
Not Revelations
Creed,
or Revelations.
Sonic and Shadow Mirage.
I would play an Assassin's Creed game where you're playing a Sonic. That'd be great.
I mean, the platforming would go a lot faster. So,
Sonic Generations came out a few years ago, I think almost a generation ago, and the concept of it is that you play as Sonic, and you run into like young little chibi Sonic from like the Genesis games.
Mhm.
So it's like a Sonic Adventure Sonic and 2D Sonic are doing levels together, and sometimes you'll like play as Sonic 2D and 3D, and sometimes you'll play as Sonic 3D in like a 2D level. So this is all that plus Shadow, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who's going to be voicing him in the movie. A lot of weird tie-ins, but the game is actually coming out to some pretty great reviews. So that is exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I'm glad Sonic is still on the map.
Dude, kids love Sonic. It's wild.
I'm glad. I'm glad that they do. I did not ever foresee Sonic lasting this long. There was a period in the 2010s where nobody wanted anything to do with a Sonic game.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm glad it has come back from the you know what I mean. All right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
The breach or whatever.
From one specific part of the internet.
All right. So this next game you showed me right before we started recording, Neva, and it is a beautiful little indie game. It is a side-scrolling platformer, but it looks like art in motion, and it actually came out last week. But we didn't cover it, so Phil was very on top of it. He's like, got to put it in this show. So, yeah, I think this looks fantastic. This is definitely a buy game for me. I just have to decide what I'm going to buy it on. So
reviews are through the roof, too. Like, it's sitting at around, I think, like an 89 on OpenCritic, and that's like all of the sort of best reviews are really, really high. And even the bad reviews are like 8s. So... pretty solid. Excited. Devolver Digital doesn't really miss, especially when they put their full weight behind a game. So
yeah,
excited to play that one. And last one is something I just added: Kong Survivor Instinct. Have you seen anything about this game, Paul?
No. I think for whatever reason I remember seeing King Kong somewhere recently, so it's probably what this is, but I don't know what it was for.
He might have been down at the mall. That son of a gun likes hanging out down there.
Yeah. The Galleria, especially.
Yeah. This game is a Metroidvania survival game. So you're playing as like a person who's trying to survive the fallout of a natural catastrophe. That natural catastrophe being King Kong is fighting with other kaiju. And so there's tones of the game that's very serious. Okay. Like you're fighting against looters and people who are trying to like do crime in this time, like kill you and take advantage of people. And then occasionally King Kong will fight a giant spider or like punch a bell tower and it'll come flying at you and you have to dodge it.
What a concept for a game. Oh my God.
It definitely feels like someone was making a Metroidvania survival game and someone else was like, we can't get the money behind it. If we put King Kong in the game, we'll give you $60,000 to cross it over the finish line.
That is 100% what happened. Oh my God. And that's why it's Kong Survival Instinct.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. That's interesting. All right. Well, let's get into the news for this week. So this is some pretty exciting news for me personally. So Secret Level, the show that we have talked about, coming on Amazon Prime Video December 10th, which is the video game anthology, is obviously including Warhammer within its series, but specifically they did clarify that it's not just any Warhammer. It is Warhammer connected to the recently released Space Marine 2. And what's even more interesting about this is not only is it connected, but it is actually a sequel narratively to what happens in the campaign of Space Marine 2. So we don't know exactly, which characters will be in it, but I'm guessing it'll either be the original 3 Space Marines you guys have played as, or there's a little bit of a like a teaser at the end of the campaign where three of the main characters in the campaign are like, we've got another mission to go do, blah 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 blah, and then you never go do it because the game is over. So I don't know, this is very exciting and something we've never seen before. I wonder if they are going to take this approach to a bunch of their other franchises that they're doing in the show. Like, is this gonna excuse me? But is this gonna be, because I know God of War is also in the show, and so is this gonna be Kratos after, Ragnarok?
The events of that game.
Yeah, probably after the events of that game because they don't want to mess with the canon or anything. I don't know. What do you think the possibilities are with this new universal
This new
meta?
way of I think it's cool to. I think it's particularly brave on behalf of like the Warhammer studio and developers to be like, all right, we're gonna bet that people finish our game by December, which I feel like a lot of game developers are not necessarily excited to do. They're like, okay, well, we can't assume anyone actually finished or played the game. So anything that we create from here out forward has to be completely disconnected. If there's a sequel game, whole new set of characters. So I'm excited to see that like Space Marine 2, they know the support is ravenous enough and that they have the fortitude enough to be like, here's more of our story. Especially what happened after the end. I hope God of War, I kind of want to get like right in that little sweet spot between God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. But there's so much space. Yeah, there's so much space in a lot of these games to really like give us something new and interesting. And I think this will probably be one of the more serious ones, like this and God of War. I feel like the Sifu one will probably just be like the game of Sifu, but as a story, because that is such a like a vivid and visual just experience. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what else that they bring forward and like kind of how silly they can get with it, and how serious they can get with it, because Love, Death, and Robots walks that line so beautifully, where it's very intense, like in-depth stories, sometimes without a single word in English or any human language, and then some really silly things about like zombies taking over the earth. So very excited for this.
So excited.
What dream game would you love to see someone just like pick up and do a story for? Because here's my pitch.
Marvel's the
a
Avengers.
Sims one. Yeah, Marvel's the Avengers. Give us a good Avengers story for one.
Yeah.
I would want like a Sims thing where someone is like being haunted by the Sims creator, like a horror in the world of Sims, where like you're in a pool and all of a sudden the thing goes away, or the ladder out goes away. Yeah.
That would be really cool. I am not sure. Maybe Grand Theft Auto. But Grand Theft Auto is also the kind of thing that you could really just do in live action, because it's close enough to reality. But yeah, I really like the set list that they have right now. Like Ghost of Tsushima, we're getting more Jin, and now that we know that he's not going to be in the second game, it'll be nice to see him again and to see him as a fully realized ghost. I'm really excited about that, but I think they're hitting all the. You know what? Jak and Daxter. That's what I want.
Oh, I miss those guys.
I want Jak and Daxter, Jak and Daxter, Jak and Daxter, and like I feel, because that's something to me you have to do in computer graphics. That's not like a live action. Don't ever give me a live action Jak and Daxter. I don't want it. So yeah.
I don't want to see what Jak or Daxter would look like in the real world.
Yeah. Or also maybe Mass Effect would be cool as well. But also you could do that in live action. All right. Sure. Let's jump to our next topic. So Assassin's Creed Shadows continues to have a rough one to go along with all of the positive Ubisoft news coming out this year. They have officially canceled their early access attached to the game. This is a little weird of a cancellation because the early access is pretty typical of other games early access, where it's you pay a specific for a specific version of the game, usually an ultimate or a deluxe edition or something like that, and you get to play the game a few days earlier. And to cancel something like this is very, very worrisome, because to say that it's not going to be ready 3 days before it's ready is like, are you really cramming that much that you need those 3 days for those hot fixes?
Yeah.
Or like, what is going on? I'm the more I hear about how this game is going, the more confused I continue to get, because the original announcement I thought was a pretty strong announcement. Yeah, it was. You got some haterade floating around the internet as usual, but I feel like they knew that going in. They knew it was going to
Oh
be a
yeah.
little bit divisive. But now, from all the technical things that are going wrong with it, and it's being delayed until next year already, and now we have this cancellation. Do you think this could be delayed again? Do you think, like, what is the problem? What is the problem, Phil? Ubisoft expert Phil.
I Here's what I hope. I hope that they are, because I was thinking, well, it's just an Assassin's Creed game. It's not like you guys haven't done 75 of those. You
Yeah,
should
it's
know how to do it by
you know
now.
how to do it. Like,
But this is the thing that gives me some pause and maybe some hope. They are trying to build something different this time, and they are being maybe a little bit more uh, ambitious with the type of game their game can be. I mean,
okay.
obviously, a 3 month delay isn't a from the ground up rework, but I think maybe they tried some bigger ideas with this game that maybe weren't fully fleshed out. Is what I'm hoping, and this is just like polishing out those ideas and working them to make things function properly.
Hmm. Okay.
That's my positive spin on it. But also, why like early access games sucks. I think we can all agree it sucks. Sometimes I'll pay more because I'm like, well, I've got Tuesday and Wednesday off. I don't have Friday off.
Right.
But it does suck. So I guess I'm happy to see it go. But why 3 days? What is 3 days going to get you? What is that going to do for you? Is
Yeah.
the staggered release a problem? I just don't understand.
I think this sounds like they need time, anytime they can get.
Hmm.
To me, this sounds like a disagreement between middle management and upper management, where
Hmm.
upper management's like, we gave you a delay. I know it's not as long as you wanted it, but we gave you a delay. And
Hmm.
middle management is like, well, it's not enough. So I'm going to cancel this thing that's within my power to cancel, something like that.
I think so.
So that's what it sounds like. But I really like what you said about them trying to design something new. Last week, I'd been messing around a little bit with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I was thinking about kind of like how the Assassin's Creed games, the last trilogy of Assassin's Creed games, have all been like the mythic, the gods. It's like it was
Hmm.
Egypt, and then it was the Egyptian gods, and then Greece and the Greek gods, and then the Norse and the Norse gods. And so, like, now this does feel like something different. Are they
Hmm.
trying to create this foundation that they can use to propel two more games in this genre of, like, all right, we're going to keep Assassin's Creed in the Eastern world, where we're going to
Hmm.
go from Japan, and then we're going to go to China, and then we're going to go to Indonesia, or something. And so I I think that's an interesting theory. I hope it's right. Um, I guess my reluctance with that is, like, when I saw the combat, at least for the samurai, it looked very similar to other Assassin's Creed combat. Um,
Well, I think you can look at that and almost like Ghost of Tsushima looks a lot like Assassin's Creed. When you're playing it, it feels a lot better than like most of your Assassin's Creed games. There's a possibility that they tightened things up and made it closer to that.
hmm,
Granted, there's still weird big like I summoned the wind moves,
yes.
but I think I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt that there will be something that they kind of have worked on this a lot because it seems like they're trying to maybe launch like the Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio trilogy. They're trying to like spend as much time in Japan as possible because it's been so highly sought after. Like, why just release one game? Sure, with updated content and DLC and all that stuff, but why not just release like 3 over 3 years and continue these people's stories?
Right. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I hope they get it figured out, but everything so far is telling me that this is going to be a rough launch. So it's everything that's going on is a little weird. All right, let's press on. So next in the news is Star Citizen, which I think we've talked about on the podcast maybe once before, and this is the 53rd episode. So if you don't know what Star Citizen is, don't feel bad, because very few people do, except for all the people with money who have funded this freaking game. So Star Citizen it's kind of a space MMO. You can play it right now. It's technically, you can buy your way into the game. It's not a free to play game, certainly, but you can buy your way into the game to play it in very early access. But the reason it's in the news this week is because the campaign Squadron 42 is apparently finally going to release, and they are targeting 2026. I know, not the year you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear 2025. But at least they're targeting a release. We'll see if it actually comes out. But if you've never actually seen any gameplay of Star Citizen, I would encourage you to do so, just because it looks gorgeous. And particularly with the Squadron 42 campaign, they've got some big actors in this game. Mark Hamill has a huge part in the game. Gary Oldman is in the game. Let me see if I can find some other fancy names. Henry Cavill is in the game. Mark Strong, Jack Hudson, Ben Mendelsohn, Andy Serkis is in the game. So like these are some well-known big actors. So I think that is
a crazy set of a cast.
Yeah, and
like,
I mean,
Gary Oldman is such a big get.
Yeah, it makes sense why it's cost so much money to make this game. So I am very curious about this. I have been keeping my eyes on Star Citizen for many years now. The problem and the apprehension I've had about getting it is how realistic it is, because this is very much a space simulator where it's like if you forget to release the airlock or something like that. It's not like Starfield, where you just have unlimited fuel and you can just go wherever you want. Fast travel here and fast travel there, and put it in your invisible video game pot. This is a space survival game, and so I'm very curious if this ever comes out. You ever think you're going to check this out, Phil? Have you seen the trailer? You've seen the trailer for this.
I just saw the trailer now, because I thought this was like I saw the trailer on a YouTube thumbnail and I started watching it and I was like, oh, this looks like a flight sim space game. Cute. Okay, interesting. And then finding out it's Star Citizen, I was like, oh, hello.
Oh my.
This is a whole different kettle of fish.
Mm-hmm.
The game itself is something that I haven't really thought would ever exist. Star Citizen is the type of game that, Paul, what was the number? How much can you spend in this game, allegedly?
$48,000.
48,000 human American dollars.
I think that's the most any player has spent on the game.
Okay.
So, but that's ridiculous. That's too much.
That's a space whale. That's insane. But... So you buy your way into the game, I guess, like with I'm looking at some of the different things right now. A Cutter's Super Starter Pack will get you the game and a ship for $48. It's 20% off right now. Oh my God, it gets you 6 months of insurance.
Yeah, because it's a simulator. It's a simulator. You need insurance, just like real life. Again, it's intense. It's like, did you pay your taxes in this part of space?
You're getting space audited in this virtual game. So that's very interesting. Squadron 42 looks like a different beast. Squadron 42 looks like even down to some of the enemies, it looks like how Halo was grounded to us, like on the original Xbox, this looks like the next level of very grounded video game combat. And like you go out in your ship, you can get flung out into space, and in a sequence of the trailer, you're hopping around surfaces in zero gravity. Um, so it looks really, really fun. I think that is probably the version of the game I would want to check out, where it's like a directed story, because I think the sort of simulator just for simulator's sake would not be something that interested me unless I like went through the story with this character and then maybe turned them into someone that I would like to take on a more like long-term adventure of a game.
Right.
And hopefully they have one that doesn't also come with space insurance. Don't make me get space insurance. That's awful.
Well, you get 24 months of it for free. You just got to pay after that.
You get 6 months of it for free. Do you pay in real life money or do you pay in video game?
I don't know. I really don't know. So sorry about that.
Just
apparently there's many. There's a bunch of different starter packs right now. So one of the starter packs you can get has 2 years of insurance.
Okay, I see that.
So that's something. But yeah, still quite a bit. So I don't know.
So that's if your ship like blows up, you'll have a ship.
If you are curious about Star Citizen and you love space exploration games, look this game up on YouTube. Watch some gameplay. But if you're gonna buy it, I would encourage you to try to rope some friends into it with you so you could figure it out, because it is a survival game. So yeah.
Also, the PC requirements are pretty hefty. That's the other thing.
I haven't looked at them in a while. What are they at?
Well, so you need a quad-core GPU, Sandy Bridge, and 16 plus gigs of RAM. So at least like a 3070 or 2070. And SSD is strongly recommended. So after you spend $1,000 on your gaming computer, then spend $1,000 in Star Citizen to really feel like a citizen of the stars. That's all I have to say about that.
I don't know how to respond. All right, let's move on. So Astrobot, one of our nominees for Game of the Year, I'm just slotting it in already, is going to be getting some new levels, as we have disclosed previously on the show. And guess what? One of those new levels is already out right now as we speak, and that is the level Building Speed. And good news, there are 4 other levels that are going to be coming out, 1 level per week. So the next one's going to be coming out on the 24th, which is only 2 days away from when we are recording this. And then one for Halloween, one on November 7th, and then November 14th. So that's awesome. I love that there's 5 new levels coming out. I love that they're doing 1 a week and I feel like this is a really good tactic to kind of get, Astrobot trending a little bit, put some marketing back out there right in the holiday season window. You know, maybe I would have liked to see it a little closer to Black Friday, but hey, if I get content sooner, I'm all about it. So I'm definitely going to check these levels out because they're free. Why not?
Yeah. It's such a low time investment. It's like the level will probably take you 20 minutes to fully investigate, but that's 20 minutes of getting to be back in like the Astrobot world and like just
and
see how good their
they
design
could be
is.
hard levels because this is not an easy game. So
True.
You gotta go back and platinum that, Phil. I believe you. I believe in you. You can do it.
Oh yeah, I can. I just do I want to. No, I'm just kidding.
How dare you? All right, pressing right along. So this was kind of a funny story. I really wanted to throw in here just to crap on something. So there was
wanted to destroy something beautiful.
I wanted to crush a soul. So apparently, and I think we've brought this up on the podcast before, but there had been a bunch of rumors about a Halo Battle Royale game coming, and a developer was working on said Halo Battle Royale game, and and how it was supposed to be. I don't know if it was going to be attached to Halo Infinite necessarily, or if it was going to be an independent game. I don't think they actually had determined that. But yeah, a conceptual Halo Battle Royale game. And they believe, and this is coming from the people that it got canceled on, they believe that it would have been a game changer for Halo if they had allowed the Battle Royale to release. And immediately, I hate this, but let's get your perspective on this first, Phil, and I'll chime in with my 2 cents afterwards.
Well, Halo's always been like such. I remember LAN parties way back in the day. Halo was one of the best multiplayer games in town, and I got attached very much to the single player. So not just to throw that out there. Love everything Halo. I think I would F pretty hard with a Halo Battle Royale. I'm not gonna lie.
What?
I think it'd actually be pretty fun. Do you remember Halo Reach with all those different abilities you could get?
Yeah.
I think Fortnite has largely copied a lot of stuff from that. And Battle Royales, strangely enough, are still kind of kicking to this day. I mentioned earlier, Off the Grid is getting a whole bunch of people playing it. I think a Battle Royale is kind of like an evergreen format for probably the last decade and a little bit of time to come. So at the time that it launched, it could have been all right, well, everybody's getting a little tired of Fortnite, Players Unknown Battleground. Nobody's playing that no more. Oh, Halo, huh? It's free to play? Ooh, all the old weapons that I used to love? Sounds great. I don't know. I don't think it would have necessarily been a game changer because Halo has had too many problems. But maybe we'd be having a different conversation about Halo now rather than, hey guys, we're rebooting it, we're so sorry.
Sure. I mean, it is a bummer that we didn't at least get to see it because all we can do now is theorize. But for me, it's Halo already feels like a battle royale for every match because what you're doing, you're loading in with your standard loadout, and then Halo is that classic old first-person competitive shooter thing where it's find the weapon on the map that's gonna kick ass, and where is the rocket launcher, where is the Spartan laser, I need to get those things so I can get some easy kills. And so I feel like there's already game modes in Halo that are you get one life and then you win a round. And that's also kind of close to the Battle Royale. To have a giant map where you can drop in and then everybody packs in a warthog and, you're loaded up and you're running down and then a missile comes in and you all die. And then you got to go. Yeah, but then you got to load into another match. It's all of that was a waste of time.
Well, okay, here's my counter argument. Someone sees it coming on your team, they dive out, they do a revive van, whatever. I feel like this game would have been really cool for squads and would have... I don't know if you ever read the Halo Fall of Reach books by Eric Newliad way back in the day.
I did not.
One of the things that I really liked about it, it was between Halo 2 and 3 or between Halo 1 and 2 where I was so into Halo that I was give me the novelization, I don't care. And it was about John 117 getting picked up as a kid and trained to be a Spartan. And this would have been a cool this is Spartan simulation training, so you're on this big map. Everybody what do they call I think it's called hell diving, but the ODST sort of thing drops you in, and you get out and have to survive with your team. Would be really, really fun and tactical. I don't know. I think Paul, I think this might have changed the game for Halo.
Too bad it never came out.
Yeah, it never will.
Speaking of never coming out, so Killzone apparently is unlikely to return, says developers over at Guerrilla Games. And apparently the last Killzone that came out, Killzone Shadowfall, which was a release title for the PlayStation 4, was just done as kind of tech demo and kind of their last hurrah at a Killzone game, but the developer doesn't really have any interest in going back and reopening the franchise in any way. Although they did kind of leave the door open to be like, if Sony wants to give it to a different developer, we might be receptive to that. We just don't. We're done working on it personally, and that's why we moved into Horizon, because it was a lot more challenging from a game design perspective, and they also kind of wanted to move away from multiplayer, which was very interesting as well. So especially with some Horizon multiplayer game rumors floating around right now. So that's a little curious, but not everyone's in the loop with everything. So yeah, I was a big Killzone fan back in the day. Like I remember the Killzone 2 trailer being like video game brain altering when you saw it, how good it looked. And then it didn't look, when it finally released, it didn't look exactly like that, but still the graphics were incredible for the time.
Oh yeah,
like
that was on the PlayStation 3, right?
It was on the PlayStation 3, late PlayStation 3, but PlayStation 3, and it and Killzone 3 similarly was also incredible and very good, and the multiplayer was really fleshed out as well. And so it's kind of a little bit of a bummer for me. I played PlayStation 3 a lot, and that generation I would say was really kind of the Xbox 360's generation. They kind of had the best games in that generation. And so, but I was really into Killzone and Resistance and shooters like that. And I'm a little bummed that Sony doesn't have like a first-person shooter of their own anymore. And I think that's just because most first-person shooters have gone away from single-player content. And they're mostly like, how can we monetize this into a battle pass kind of a game? So I would really like to see a Killzone or Resistance make a comeback. I'd probably like to see Killzone a little bit more. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed by this, but I am a little hopeful that they left the door a little bit open should anyone else want to pick it up at some point. So
yeah, I definitely feel like Killzone had an identity at first, and I felt like bits of it kept getting shaved off to be like the Halo killer. And by the time we got to Killzone Resistance, the game, like, you know, it was pretty and it had kind of its own thing, but it also was sort of a generic shooter by that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think Resistance would be, like, if I wanted to see someone pick up and run with something, I want to see the story of Resistance get continued, because that was, like, so weird and creepy and different. Like, I would have been into it. But yeah, I think it's good at least that Guerilla is like, hey, we don't want to make it per se, like, it's not lighting a fire for us creatively anymore. If someone else wants to, that's great. If Sony wants to give it someone, good. But I'm also very much in favor of them doing their own thing. Like, whatever you want to do, please do that.
And they've earned it at this point, so that's good. Yeah. All right. Speaking of more Guerilla, I forgot about this. So Lego Horizon is getting previews. Previews are coming out for Lego Horizon on IGN, on Games Radar, on GameSpot. Everybody's getting an in-depth look. And the reviews are kind of mixed right now. There's no clear, like, this is awesome. There are lots of people who are like, I don't know why this is a Lego game. There are lots of other people like, I think this makes a great Lego game. It's a beautiful aesthetic to have in Lego, and I want Lego Horizon sets in real life now. So I think that's cool. I think what we originally talked about with this was just the, like, Sony's franchising. They really, really are pushing their franchises right now. I think what the new CEO of Sony said this year of, like, we don't have enough franchises. We need more franchises and franchising. I think this is just a product of that. I don't know. This is still very much a PlayStation Plus for free next year for me game.
Absolutely.
Has this moved the dial at all for you with people's reactions, Phil?
No, I don't think I was ever going to buy this game seriously. This is like very much something I would play for free for a little while, I think. Unless the gameplay loop is incredible, because it looks good, but I've tried a bunch of different Lego games, and every time I do, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Not for me.
And last up on our list is Netflix is maybe shut down its AAA gaming studio. So we're getting various reports that a bunch of senior developers who got hired by this studio, I believe it's called True Blue, is the studio that Netflix formed together. And apparently True Blue is made up of a ton of veterans, people who have worked at Bungie for a while, people we were talking about ODST just a little bit ago, Phil. So, hey, veterans from ODST, veterans from God of War Ragnarok, Destiny 2, Overwatch. Lots of these people have got hired by Netflix, and apparently they no longer work there. And it's unclear whether they quit or whether they were fired. But usually when a bunch of veterans from high, big resumes like this are leave a company all at once, it's unusual that they would all like coordinate, oh, we're all going to quit together. So this looks like a Netflix folding on a AAA game studio. What do you think? Do you think they are, or they're just doing some reorganizing, or?
I think Netflix is not necessarily in trouble. I think they've won the streaming war, more or less. Like, everything goes to Netflix. I do think that they are realizing the collapse of the bubble that exists, or existed around, like, a lot of big tech companies. Like, Uber and Lyft were just printing money because they were like, we've got an idea, here goes, and they had all the capital. Similarly, Netflix did that. Prime, everything kind of got the, we're going to disrupt the space and destroy cable. And now we're finally like the settling of all of that. So there are no more, that's why it costs about the same to have Netflix, HBO, and Disney as it would to have a cable package. So I think because of that, Netflix is now focusing on like, okay, we're not making as many shows. We're just making projects and just getting rid of all the slack. And I think this was a pretty bloated chunk of slack.
Sure.
Because they've kind of dabbled with the phone games to some success, but I didn't see them ever making like a big AAA game. That doesn't make sense for Netflix.
Yeah, I think this is everybody wanted to get on the Fortnite train. And they're discovering Suicide Squad and other various live service games that sounds like a big pain in the butt, and that Fortnite has their market and it's not going anywhere, and so there's only so many live service games that can exist because everything is just vying for attention so much. I think I agree with you. This is very much seems like a trimming of the fat for Netflix. It's, maybe we want to have Grand Theft Auto San Andreas playable through the Netflix app on your phone. But does that mean that we want to produce a God of War / Halo level, video game that you can only play through Netflix? That sounds like freaking nightmare. So maybe sometime in the future they'll have a big gaming studio, but I think it was a little too early for this. But interesting. And I know that, New World, I forgot to say it again. We were talking about it last week at
Eternum?
Eternum.
Eternum, yeah. The Turnip?
That is an
New
Amazon.
World,
That's an Amazon Studios game, and they're really the only streamer that has actually put out some games. Of course, they don't just do streaming. So they do.
They didn't start as a streamer. They started as a delivery, like a storefront, and now they are everything.
Yes.
And I think Amazon has more of the wherewithal to do that than Netflix.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. All right. Well, speaking of the wherewithal to do everything, let's talk about our main topic finally, and that is virtual reality and the state of VR in today's market. So is it dead? Is it in decline? Is it stagnant? Phil, you pointed out a very interesting article from GameDeveloper.com. What were their thoughts on this? I would say stagnation.
Well, yes. they're reporting on a survey amongst game developers from different studios, saying that a lot of them think that the VR market is in stagnation, or it is dead, or it is declining.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's pretty. It's pretty relevant that we're only seeing like Meta compete in that space. Um, they're trying to bring it to everyone. They're not a game development company. Bless you.
Thank you.
They are. They're trying to get into it in the same way that Amazon is into everything. And I think there's some luck there. I know Meta was a big crash and burn as like a platform, the online space,
Yes,
but
Meta Horizons.
Meta Horizon.
Sorry.
But no. But that I think like Steam, you only see it as like a very high price, high quality product. PlayStation, it's priced out of like 99% of the people who own a PlayStation to get a VR headset. VR is still so niche that, and it's had a lot of killer IP. Like you can play Skyrim fully in VR, which should be huge. You can play Beat Sabers, which is like a great Guitar Hero like game.
Fantastic.
It's amazing.
Game. Yeah.
So good. It makes you feel like you're dancing and grooving all by yourself. It's my kind of party. And most recently, the newest Arkham game that has Batman in it as a playable character is only available on the Meta Quest 3 and 3S, which seems like kind of a big deal. But my prediction is I don't think it's going to move that many units. It is still a $300 thing, maybe in time for the holidays. Maybe some people will buy it at like a slightly lower pricing for Black Friday sale, and that will get the chains rolling. But I just don't feel like VR. I feel like changing gears a little bit. I feel like VR is where PCs were in like the early 2000s. It was just for a very specific group of hardcore gamers who did one specific type of thing.
Sure.
Will it survive as long as PCs have? I don't know.
Oh, I disagree with that. I think VR is going to be around indefinitely. Like I don't think it's going away. Like this isn't like even the like the PlayStation Move and Wiimotes. It's like that's VR now. They just evolved. But that's the same thing. And like I definitely think the market is stagnant because I think that there was this wave of people who did not know what virtual reality was, where VR was able to enter the mainstream. And it's like, okay. And like we see all these VR stores popping up in the mall with these VR kiosks popping up in the mall. And now everyone has a VR headset you can put on your phone and put a cardboard thing on your head. And, oh, it's this new, it's never been done before. And so it was kind of the energy and the fad of it that was going on. And then you also had all these companies making their own VR headsets. And like too many companies making their own VR headsets. But the common thread with all of them was, well, you got to have a PC to plug this into. And at that point, you're talking about a very hardcore gamer who's going to buy an HTC Vive or whatever it was called, or a Valve Index or something like that. And so it's where Meta has cornered a corner of the market, is that they do not have to plug into anything. You know, it's like you got to charge the thing. Other than that, it works independently. But I just think the technology isn't there yet. Or honestly, I do think the technology is there, but in order to have like a VR headset that functions like a real video game, you're probably talking about like a $10,000 headset. And until that price point comes down where a normal person can buy that technology, it's just not going to be it's not going to be something that people want to develop on, because they know they're not going to sell a lot of copies because it's going to be limited to whatever platform they release it on, just like this Arkham game is going to be, which again, because it's, you know, it's like, oh, buy a Quest and Batman. It's like, this is a Meta Quest pusher, you know, and hopefully it succeeds, you know, because it does sound like it's actually a decent VR game. But yeah, I don't know. I also think there is one key problem with VR that also needs to be solved, and that there are some solutions for it, but again, they're not at a point where the average person can buy it, and that is movement. Look, it's great that I can move my arms around, and that'll be what the avatar does in the VR game. That's awesome. But
Yeah.
I need to be able to walk. And like, there's always that thing in a VR game. It's like, how do you really move? Do you teleport to another location in the room and then change your orientation? Do you move with the analog stick, but then it's a little weird because you're turning and then you got the other analog stick that's for looking, but it's really your head that's for looking. And so which one do you use? And so then you get like this, patting my head, rubbing my stomach business going on when you're playing VR. And so I think maybe in 10 years time, there will be a PlayStation PS6 VR headset where it comes with the VR thing and everything's wireless, and then it comes with like a floor, like that Disney floor that you've seen that you can like walk on or something like that.
Direction.
To me, that's when VR is going to be like, oh, okay, this may be the optimal way to play a game. But up until that point,
I think even that is going to be so limited in terms of like people who like, one of the drawbacks of VR now is like, do you have an extra room in your house for VR? Because you're kind of going to need an extra room. If you need like an extra room with a special floor, unless VR becomes as ubiquitous as like kind of a holodeck in terms of like everybody's got a VR room so that they can go and like do family reunions. Like I think what VR needs is wide acceptance as something other than a gaming platform to really like give it the juice it needs to survive until it is like until there is that VR that you're talking about. Because I agree that like once it's there, once you're just sort of like in a space like freewheeling, VR is going to be the next level of everything. We're going to have Ready Player One in real life. But sometimes when I get in VR, I get all crossed up and I forget how to work the body.
You gotta play more Twister, man.
That is it. I think you should leave reference for our eagle-eyed fans.
Oh, okay, all
right. But yeah. I think that's the nice thing about VR, right? It is the controls are semi-ubiquitous, kind of like how when you hand an old person a Wiimote and you're like, "We're playing tennis," they just instantly get it.
Yeah.
If you could get your grandparent into a VR headset and like kind of just put things in their hands, that does like, oh, I get this pretty simply because it's like your physical body, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of things going against VR, and I just don't know if it's gonna have the runway to even become something within the next like 10 years. I think it might take
20,
possibly like 20,
20,
maybe 30.
I think it's going to be an ebb and flow. Like I think like probably like right before the pandemic, I think VR was like at an all-time high. It had never been as popular as it was. And now it's kind of dipping back down. And I think until we get another technological generational leap, we're not going to get that popularity again. That being said, I think that you were talking about using VR for something other than video games, and it's like, well, that was the Apple. What was it called? I always forget the name. That giant Apple thing.
Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro. But that people didn't like that. They were like, "Oh, it's so cool," but in reality, nobody liked. Apple discontinued it. The technology's not there. It's not. You need to make it smaller. You can't be carrying around a giant battery pack. And so I do know that the Meta Quest also functions like that. It's obviously not as fancy, but it does have functioning AR. So it's like you could like look at the internet and be seeing everything around you still, just like your Iron Man or something like that. But again, I think it just needs more time, and maybe in a couple years we'll get another. Hey, this VR is cool. It's different. The graphics are good now. Hey,
I do think that Apple was like, that was the thing that got me most excited about VR in the past probably like half decade of like, oh, Apple's getting involved. Oh. And I actually went down to an Apple store and put one on, and it felt different than VR. Like you saw your hand, like your actual hands. Yeah. You were like affecting pictures, and like you could fade the world around you out. But I do think even that one is like kind of a prototype.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it shouldn't have been released in
it
that
was
state.
absolutely a prototype, and so it's like it's a good prototype, but it's not ready for market. It's not ready for people to be designing games for it. So yeah. All right. Well, we should probably wrap it up there, unless you have any other VR thoughts, Philbo.
Yeah, I just, I'm very excited that VR is wireless. That is one thing that I was like, no way they're going to do that. And then like 2 years later, so this, I might be completely wrong about all of my points because I remember being at GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, playing a really cool game in VR and being like, wow, this is great, but I don't have a lattice to hold up all these wires above my head. And then they were like, we're actually a few years out from wireless VR. Granted, it wasn't like wired connected to a computer, it was the MetaQuest and everything. But that is a big development that has completely changed the game, and I'm happy that it's so easy for people to get their hands on and play. We just need like another pandemic to bring us all back into our houses.
Yep. In order to advance VR technology, that's what we
Yeah,
need.
take one on the cheek, rest of the world, for gamers.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the internet responds to that. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode 53 of the GGG Podcast. If you enjoyed our episode and then listened to the whole thing, you made it all this way, we would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed to our podcast over on YouTube. And if you're listening to the audio-only version, you're probably listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So give us a follow and a review over there as well. We would appreciate it. We will see you next week. I am excited for Dragon Age. We'll have to, I think the next episode will be like right before Halloween. So I will not have played it yet. Oh my God. But
I would have paid for the early access. I would have paid for it so we could play it for the show, but they didn't give us the option.
Like, I am so starved for an RPG, and I never finished Baldur's Gate, and so like now I'm like so freaking ready to play this. I'm jazzed about it. So, all right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.